shoe is untied. Matches my son's, yeah. Drop that. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Great.
How's the time change? Treating everyone? Not okay. My wife was complaining about it first thing this morning. She was like, I can't get up. I don't want to get up. We went and sat down on the couch having coffee. She looked over at the oven. She was like, why is that time wrong? I don't know. Because it's not automatic. But, my name is Austin Cameron. I am the lead pastor here. If you have not been here, that is who I am. That is my job title here. And so we're going to continue this series on featuring who. We're going to jump right into our focus verse. And this is what's anchored this whole series. So Galatians chapter 2, starting in verse 20. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. So, I've got a question. And you can't lie to me about this answer because I already know it. Just so we're clear. But, have you ever done something you knew wasn't right? All because you didn't want to disappoint someone, you did what you knew was wrong. The overwhelming answer to that is yes. At some point in time within our life, we've all done it. When we deal with teenagers and kids, we call it peer pressure. When they don't want to disappoint their friends, when they're seeking the approval of others, but we call it peer pressure. As an adult, we're just like we call that a people pleaser. Right. It's amazing on how that narrative changes. It goes from being a peer pressure situation where I'm around a group of people who are doing what I know is wrong, but I'm going to join in because I want to fit in. I want the approval of others. I want people to love and care about me, so I will do what is wrong. As an adult, we switch that narrative. We're no longer a peer pressure situation. We are just a people pleaser. We're going to do everything for everyone, regardless of what that means. Whatever that means for us, we're going to do it. Just so that way we don't disappoint somebody. Our culture today, this is massive in our culture today, right? You get on social media, I call it, when I'm dealing with my wife or other ladies, I call it the Instamom effect. They get a just quick little snippet of a mom doing something. She's got like 8 kids running around, but they're all in like single file line. They're all doing the wonderful thing. Yet, if you have had multiple children like myself, I have 4, and you know deep down that picture is not real. Okay? I have yet to see somebody properly herd children like ducks. Okay? When hurting children, you are better off hurting cats. Because, like we said, we've got Easter coming up here in a few weeks, so for those parents who have multiple children to get ready, just make sure the shoes are there before the night before. Otherwise, it's going to come time to walk out of the door, and one child's walking out with mismatched shoes. So, but that is what happens when we beg for people's approval. So, what we're called to do, what our assignment is, what God puts in front of us sometimes does not, not even sometimes, 95% of the time goes against the approval odds. What people in society would deem approved, what God is leading us to is opposite. So, sometimes God will, when following God, it means standing when other people want to sit. It means speaking up when the whole room goes quiet. I'm really good at that one, just because I like to be annoying. But the real test of faith is not what you do when obedience is celebrated. It's easy to do it when you're around everybody else who's going to also do it. The disciples following Jesus, when everybody agreed with it, it was easy. But when things got hard, that's where the true test of faith showed up. The true test of faith is what you do when obedience costs you approval. When somebody sits there and looks at you and says, hey, I don't agree with that, and you just say, okay, I don't care. Because I'm not looking for what you are wanting me to do, I'm looking at what God is leading me to. So, that is what today's message is all about. It is about, that was weird. I just catch out of the corner of my eye, and all I see is baby feet up in the air. I was not prepared for that. But today's message is all about approval or assignment. And as we've been doing, I've got a Bible character we're going to take a look at. And we're going to then take a look at Jesus and how Jesus handled this. Because to be a Christian, we follow his model. And so, because there were other Bible characters that I could have pulled out where it was like, hey, they followed assignment, they did what they were supposed to, but we're not called to be like them, we're called to be like Jesus, right? And with this whole series, it's all about featuring who? So, we're going to take a look at one guy. He's an okay guy, but he chose approval. And if you look at every single person that we've talked about thus far, that is what they all chased after. They all chased after approval. Saul chased after approval. Samson chased after approval. Adam and Eve chased after approval. Everybody chased after approval. So this is not a new topic. But we're going to pray and we're going to jump in. So Father, today I ask that you open our hearts to what you're saying. That we'll truly listen to what you are trying to speak to us. Father, we give you all the praise and all the glory in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So the pressure for approval. The gentleman we're taking a look at today goes by the name of Aaron. Okay, if you don't know who Aaron is the brother of Moses. He is anointed, him and his family. They are the chief priests. They are the ones that get to go into the Holy of Holies. That is who they are. They are the priestly line. It starts there. But, so, Moses, backstory before we get going on this, Moses goes up to the mountainside, and he's gone for a while. Moses, who has been the one translating what God is saying directing it to the people, or directing it to Aaron to direct to the people, because Moses had a stutter, and so he had confidence issues in getting that out. Exactly. But, Aiden, is there 2 parts to that verse? Did I only grab one?
Yeah.
Alright, grab the second one real quick. Because I didn't write it down. But Aaron is tasked in Moses' absence to keep the peace. And all he's got to do is just watch over the people. God's already giving manna. God's providing everything they need. But now, with Moses being gone for a while, and they're staying in this encampment probably longer than any place they've ever been at this point. And it says, now, when the people saw that Moses delayed coming down from the mountain, the people gathered together to Aaron and said to him, come, make us gods that shall go. That was a key word. No, it's 2 parts to that verse, though. But it says, go before us. They wanted gods, and they wanted something visible. So, we've got to understand this, okay? Because this is what happens. This happens for everybody at some point in time. So it says, before us, as for this Moses guy, okay, like now they've already kind of cut him down. They're like, bro, you had it. Where'd it go?
Did you lose it?
This is why I write this stuff down. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we don't know what has become of him. We think he's probably dead on that mountainside, guys. And since he's dead, that means God's dead. Let's do something that we can actually see. Let's be like everybody else. And so Moses has gone up to the mountain, and the people have been waiting, and they've been waiting, and there's been more waiting. It's kind of like getting that verse. There's just been waiting. That's on me. But eventually the pressure starts building, right? People start getting anxious. They're like, hey, it's been a while since we've seen it. God's still providing, but this guy's gone. So we don't know what that means. And so when the people got impatient, they started demanding something visible. And now they turn to Aaron. Again, Aaron, high priest, gets to go to the Holy of Holies. He makes the bread, he does the sacrifices for the people. That is his job. And now Aaron is stuck in the middle of people demanding something from him. He's stuck in the middle of the pressure. Now, as a parent, I know what that means. When all your kids are like, hey, can we get something out to eat? Can we get something out to eat? Dad, can we get something out to eat? Dad. No, we've got food at home. But I want food. We're 3 minutes from the house. Just stop and get some. It's 10 minutes to go get food. And so, instead of standing on what God had told him, Aaron gives in. Why? If Aaron already knew, if Aaron already had all of this available to him, why would he have given in? Peer pressure? Because the pressure for approval is powerful. If I want somebody to approve of the things that I want, because I want them to like me, I don't want to feel like an outcast, I will do whatever. Aaron, knowing all of this, still goes and follows peer pressure. Because of the approval of others. Proverbs 29. Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. When we live by approval, when we live for approval, it's a trap. Because what happens when we give in to try to get other people's approval? We continuously have to do that. The stakes get raised. We start compromising everything. When I want somebody's approval, it becomes a prison that I get trapped in. And so here's what happens next. Once approval becomes your goal, compromise becomes inevitable. So, because I love stories and I love illustrations, there are two types of people. Everyone. Two types. Okay? And no, this is not a gender thing. Okay? Just to get that out of the way. This is not about gender. There's two types of people. You have a thermometer and you have a thermostat. A thermometer tells you if it's hot, if it's cold. It tells you the temperature of the room. Right? If it's cold in the room, the temperature is going to say 40-something degrees. If it's hot, it's going to say 80. Actually, really, anything over 75. In a confined space, anything over 75 is hot. Okay? That's what a thermometer does. A thermometer just tells you what the temperature is. A thermometer reacts to the environment. But a thermostat controls the temperature of the room. If it's sitting at that 75-degree mark and I'm starting to sweat because that's what happens, because for whatever reason, when 75 hits in a confined space, no air ever kicks on, no matter what it is, it just becomes stale. If I want it colder, I turn it down. If it's in the middle of winter and some child decides that their bedroom window needs to be open, because that happens, or you have animals that you're letting in and out, I can then turn it up. I can turn the thermostat up. As believers, we are called to be a thermostat. We are not called to be a thermometer. We go in and we set the temperature of the room. So, Romans 12. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Approval says blend in. Assignment says stand out. So, in my quest for approval, what happens next? Well, I begin to compromise. So if you go through and you read the story of Exodus 32 and the things that happen. So from 31, Aaron is now partaking in people's sin. Because the sinful people of Israel said, hey, we want a God. Aaron didn't do what he was supposed to do, but he decided to help. So he tells them in verse 32, hey, go give me all the gold. Give me your gold earrings, give me your gold plates. Whatever you have that's gold, bring it to me. We'll get this taken care of. Now in 34, it says he took what they handed him, and he made into an idol cast in the shape of a calf. Weird to me, but that's what he went with. Aaron partook. He compromised. compromised everything, all for approval, all to make sure the people wouldn't be upset with him. He said, I'm going to do what I know is wrong. I'm going to do what the people want me to do. Compromise rarely starts big. It started by him just saying, hey, bring me your stuff. Bring me your gold. I'm not saying I'm doing anything with it, but just bring it to me. Let me take a look at how much we have, what we got going on, and then we'll go from there. That's where it started. When Aaron hesitated to say, no, we're not doing that. When Aaron said, hey, you know what? I agree. My brother, I don't know where he's at either. I'm kind of getting tired of waiting on him. You guys are annoying me. Let's do it. Just bring me your gold. Matthew 6:24 says, no one can serve two masters. This is a decision every believer has to make. And this is more of a daily decision that we make. Approval or assignment. Because you cannot build your life on both. I cannot build my life on the approval of other people while also attempting to build my life on the assignment God has given me. There will be times when people come to me wanting me to compromise what I believe. There will be times where things will happen within inside this church that I have to make the decision to go with assignment over approval. And people will leave. Oh well. So in the story of Exodus, what's so powerful about this approval story is that Israelites said what was really on their heart. They didn't shy away from it. And so, what they said was, make us gods who will go before us. The same people who watched the sea split, because we're past that. The same ones whose shoes have not worn out, their clothing still fits. They are well taken care of. They are fed. All of this is going on. Even while Moses is on the mountainside. They said, make us gods to go before us. Listen, I get it. I get impatient. My wife doesn't believe this. I get impatient. Everybody makes the same joke that I have this thing that they like to call ductrum. Not a lot of things actually bother me, but I get impatient. And there have been times in my prayers where I've become impatient. Because I'm wanting what's next. I'm tired of being in the wilderness and I'm ready to be where God has promised me that I'm going. I used this example one time when talking with somebody about kind of how I felt, and it was like, I felt like a dog on a choke collar that had a treat just 3 feet out from me, and I was intentionally choking myself out. That's what happens when you start chasing approval. Because when you chase approval, it's always going to be just out of reach. The Israelites were chasing approval. Aaron was willing to give them approval. They wanted something immediately. They wanted something they could control. But God, and I love that phrase, but God was teaching them something deeper. And it was to trust in faith. It was to live by faith. Bible says, for we live by faith, not by sight. Faith means trusting God even when the people around you don't understand. Everybody around you is not going to understand the assignment. It happens. When God is calling you and leading you to something, not everybody gets it. And so when they don't get it, my faith says I push forward. Because it's not about them. It's about God. Because as I push forward, other people start getting impacted. When I get myself out of the way, when I stop chasing the same approval that Aaron chased, same approval that King Saul chased, even the same approval that King David chased. And I focus on getting one's approval and following his assignment, other people's lives change. Now, let's take a look at Jesus. I love the contrast of Jesus here because Jesus was so far removed from going after people's approval. So, and this isn't the example I'm using today. There's an instance where his brothers show up to where he was at, and he's like, hey, you need to go and celebrate and make a proclamation to the people that you are who you say you are. You just need to go ahead and go do that, so that way the people know. And Jesus is like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna stay here. They didn't get it. They didn't understand why. But Jesus wasn't chasing their approval. Now, Jesus consistently felt the same pressure of everybody else telling him how to do his ministry. And in the book of John, if you read chapter 6, it is an impactful verse. It's an impactful chapter. Jesus feeds the 5,000. Jesus walks on water. Jesus does it all in this chapter. Everything that you need to say Jesus is Jesus and Jesus is Messiah, that chapter. But you get towards the end and Jesus gives a very hard preaching sermon. And in that sermon, he's talking about how the Israelites took it was eating of his flesh, being a cannibal. And this is how, okay, we're going to pause for a second. Jesus had more than 12 disciples, just so everybody's aware. The 12 disciples that we consistently talk about are the apostles, but Jesus had way more disciples than that. Okay? Now let's continue. Now, so his disciples are like, this is weird. Why is he talking about eating of his flesh? Why is he talking about partaking in his blood? This is weird. The Pharisees are like, this is heresy. How dare you talk about this? They were missing it. And it was so hard that disciples left. The people left him. All over one message. The same people who just watched him feed 5,000. Some of the same people who saw him walk on water. All of them. To which Jesus, and I'll be honest, one sermon, and everybody left after one sermon, panic, people. Panic would set in on my earthly body. Okay? But Jesus didn't chase their approval. He even turns around and he looks at the 12 apostles and is like, are you leaving too? If you are, that sucks, but bye. He was okay with losing them as well. Peter steps up and he's like, no, but we know you're the Holy One. Peter, if anyone should know I'm the Holy One, it's you. We just held hands and danced across the water. Okay? But Jesus followed the assignment. Even though everybody else was like, hey, like we were cool when the miracles were happening. We were great when dead people were being raised. It was even fantastic when you were telling Pharisees they were hypocrites and they were vipers and all of that. It was great. But now you're hitting close to home. Now you're pushing in on me, and this just sounds weird. When I felt God call me way back when, I took off running. Like it was the first time I ever really felt like I heard the voice of God, and it was in that I was in the middle of a church camp, and I took off. Before I even realized it, I was about, so this campground was massive. I was about 10 cabins down near the lake. And the lake was like a 15-minute walk. And I had a couple buddies chasing me down. But it was weird. And I left. Why? Because I didn't understand the assignment. It's the same situation. Imagine getting on a plane. Okay? I'm not a big, I don't like flying, but imagine getting on a plane. Now, when you get on, you sit down, you have the flight attendants who are telling you, hey, buckle your seat. If you need an oxygen mask, if they come down, make sure you put yours on before helping somebody else. The latest thing is, hey, the seat becomes a flotation device if we hit water. But then the captain comes on. He likes to introduce himself. Now imagine the captain comes on. He's like, hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you for boarding this flight. The wheels are already kind of starting to roll. And yet he's like, where's everybody want to go? Like now you're trapped. Yeah. Where's everybody want to go? And because everybody's going to start calling out different things. Florida, New York, California, sure. The Bahamas, Alaska. You would panic because you want. When I get on a plane, I already have trust issues, people. Okay? I am already trusting this person to get me into the air and back to the ground. Okay? Panic would set in. I would attempt to Hulk my way through an emergency exit. But because we want the pilot to follow the flight plan. We want them to follow the plan that was set out before them, that also had the right amount of gas to get you there in safely, that said, hey, there's no other planes in the path of where you're going. That's what we're wanting. God did not call believers to live our lives based on other people's approval. Just because somebody else wants you to go do something, if God did not tell you to go do it, don't do it. God has built the flight plan for your life. So, in Philippians chapter 2, verse 8, we've been quoting it a lot. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. Jesus, so desiring to fulfill the assignment, takes the cross, knowing the cross is about to cost him everything. His reputation, his comfort, his life. It pushes the disciples to the breaking point. I mean, we got one guy, 1 minute cutting off someone's ear to protect him. You got to go a couple hours later and he's sitting there cussing out a little girl. Jesus, the Bible says Jesus, for the joy set before him, endured the cross. Jesus was not chasing approval. He wasn't. He was focused on purpose. He was focused on assignment. So in Galatians chapter 2, verse 20, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live. When you die to the need of being seen, you become free. When I don't need other people's approval for what I do, I become free. I come free of comparison. Compare me to whoever. I don't care. This is a mindset that I love my grandfather for setting me in. Like when people say something negative, if I can't change their opinion, I can't change their opinion. I used to have a trick to get bullies to leave me alone. It was fantastic. They're like, I hate you. I'm like, you know what? I hate me too. I'm the president of the club. You want to join? Shut them up. Quickly. But I become free from comparison. I become free of living for approval. Because my life is no longer about reputation. My life is about Christ. There's only one reputation that I want, and that is when I get to heaven. That is it. The only reputation I care about is what is waiting for me in heaven. So as we begin to close, found this story of a young musician, young violinist, goes up and he plays his first recital. Does fantastic. As soon as he is done, the applause around the building erupts. People stand to their feet, clapping. Everyone whistling, chanting. But he doesn't bow. He doesn't acknowledge the crowd. He keeps his eyes up towards the spot in the balcony. As everyone leaves, one of his friends comes over to him and says, hey, it's kind of a jerk. Why did you not acknowledge the crowd? They acknowledged you for your talent. Why did you not acknowledge them? And he said, because the spot I was looking to, up there in the balcony, that's where my teacher was sitting. And I wasn't satisfied until he was standing. That's the same heart that every believer should have. I'm not satisfied with and saying my assignment is done until Jesus is standing on his feet. You want a perfect example of this? You look at the death of missed him. Got my disciples wrong. Oh, what is his name? I just lost it. Stephen. I almost said Samson. You look at the death of Stephen. Stephen is a freshly appointed apostle. Yes. And he is out preaching the gospel. And it is pissing people off. I'm going to use that phrase, I don't care. And so in doing that, you get a young man, a young Pharisaical teacher, helping keep the law, show up on the scene. And his name's Saul. And the people come to Saul and say, hey, he's preaching heresy. We need to stone him. And Saul's like, go for it. Leave your cloaks right here. Lay down your jackets, lay down your garments, go ahead and stone him. Stephen, as he is being stoned to death, doesn't stop preaching. Looking up says, I see heaven open and I see Jesus standing there. His assignment wasn't done until he breathed his last breath. The only words of approval that I am waiting for is when I get to heaven and I hear, well done, good and faithful servant. The approval of others means nothing. Nothing. Nobody else can get me to heaven. So Aaron and the Israelites, they forgot who their life was featuring. Because everything they were told to do, everything they were building, the wilderness tabernacle was supposed to be a beacon to the world. It wasn't, yes, it was meant for them, but it was meant to be hope for everybody. But they became stingy. They said it's ours, nobody else's. Aaron listened to the demands of the people, while Jesus listened and gave the Father what he asked. Aaron built what a sinful people wanted to feel better. Jesus delivered what God required. A sacrifice had to be made. One built a golden calf to worship and dance around, and the other one carried the cross. He carried the heavy thing. Every day it's the same dilemma. Who do I feature? Am I featuring approval? Or am I featuring assignment? So, how do we deal with this? We ask these questions. So if you're a note taker, take these down. Where in my life am I seeking approval more than obedience to God's assignment? Second question, God, where do I blend in where you want me to stand out? And then finally, who am I featuring through my life to the others around me? Because I'll be honest, I'm transparent. There are times where I still battle with the need for approval. There are times where I tend to end up blending in more than standing out. It happens to everybody. So, if you ever want to stand, we're gonna end this.